Thanks, Tiff. I have a great job. I work for a guy who once said, you go into the woods to hunt a bear, and you hunt down the bear, and you spend your whole day maybe up in a tree waiting for the bear to come by, and then you kill the bear. And your job has just started. And I feel like that's what Tiff has done. He's raised the bar. He's told me that now I not only have to get the province to the median, but we've just invented a prosperity gap, so now I've got to raise all of your incomes by a little over $4,000. So I'm going to do my best to do so. I think, building off of what Tiff just said, I think what we have said before as an institute is, as a province, we've done a really good job on the decency file and equity. We've laid a really strong foundation for making the province a safe and comfortable place for a large number of people. We haven't perhaps done as well on the excellence, on the dynamism side. And so what we've tried to do in this report and in some of our other reports is focus on key areas where we can double down on those successes. The four sectors that we looked at, starting off with the finance and insurance sector. And you'll have both this in your materials in your quick read, as well as in the overall report. So some of the strengths that we found within the finance and insurance industry, a sound financial system and industry. Our talent is extremely well educated, and that's a consistent theme you'll see throughout. One of my favorite lines that I've repeated before, but I say it again, Bill Davis, upon retiring, was asked what's the one gift you would give to Ontario, and he said, upon retiring, he said, I hope they find oil in the bottom of Hudson Bay. In the absence of finding oil in the bottom of Hudson Bay, our number one quality remains our people, and doubling down on the talent that we have is going to be something that's going to be important in the years ahead. The weaknesses that we have, regulation remains a huge barrier in the finance and insurance industry, and access to capital to scale up. This is a theme that, for those of you who are fans of our work, has been consistent. We'll come back to it in some of our recommendations. As far as the threats, we've faced many recessions. As a guy who bought his home in 2007, I've been hearing about the housing bubble since about 2005. Every year it feels a little more real. I keep trying to tell my staff I'd like to manufacture a report that causes a massive bubble burst of the detached home market with a continued ascendancy of the single semi-detached home market so that I can afford one. But there are some threats out there, but our financial industry in particular has remained incredibly strong. Our opportunities, becoming a leading innovative regulator. Which is for some an oxymoron. For us at the Institute, it is not. It's an opportunity for us to grow and demonstrate some real abilities on the going forward. And also that we need to double down on our talent and position Ontario as a fintech hub. And we're going to have some speakers on our panel later who can speak to that. Needless to say, we aren't the only state or provincial jurisdiction who woke up this morning desiring to be the fintech hub around the world. So there's some things we're going to need to do to move that forward. Next. We have the life sciences sector. And just for those who are participants in the life sciences sector, we decided to focus mostly on the medical devices and pharmaceutical industries. We realize that there are, or sub-industries, we recognize there's a larger portion of the life sciences sector. But again, we wanted to focus on a particular area. Strengths here, again, our talent, our strong generic companies, particularly out in the 905 region, as well as there's a lot of positive spillover effects, not only from a health perspective, but from an economic perspective, from the massive buys that happen at a provincial level in our hospital sector and in our drug bill as a province. One of our weaknesses, and maybe we'll get into this with one of our panelists afterwards, we remain relatively low on R&D investment in the province in our brand name pharmaceuticals. It's started to change a little bit, but that's something we're going to continue to try to push as a province. Some of our threats, because we're a branch plant economy, particularly in this sector, new technology can disrupt existing pharmaceutical companies. I think this is one of the things that Rebecca will probably speak to and some of the challenges that the industry itself faces, let alone the province. What are our opportunities going forward? I think because we have some opportunities, we have some of the number one testing sites for drugs around the world. The diaspora and the diversity of our population makes us a positive testing bed for drugs, medical devices, medical inventions around the world. And it's something that we need to then develop not only so that the drugs and products get tested here, but they also get built here from an innovation perspective. The next sector we looked at is the metal ore and mining. And as Tiff said, and I like the line from downtown Toronto to up north, Our strengths, we have amongst the safest mining industries in the world. And if you go back and if you've seen your materials, the GDP per worker in the mining ore sector really stands out in this report. We'll get to some of the weaknesses that come along with that. The industry also uses a lot of innovation to improve its productivity. Our weaknesses, in this area, the productivity has been falling over years, and also there's been a decrease in the number of people working in the industry. And for those who are fans of the North or come from the North or work in the North, there's also a large number of small companies that are at risk of being bought out by large multinationals or closed down or amalgamated. Some of the threats, as always, when you have a commodity, fluctuating prices are going to be a challenge. The ring of fire up north has been long spoken of at the province, yet to be realized, and the cost of getting into the ground might not necessarily equate with what you take out of the ground. And the opportunities, there remain many opportunities to improve mining and exploration innovation, and we'll see that in the report as well. Lastly, our motor vehicle and parts manufacturing highlights. So one of our strengths here, and this will be something that's going to be very interesting to watch, of all the things to watch with the president-elect, trade pacts and what's going to happen from a Great Lakes trade and the auto pact, NAFTA, and the rest. But one of our strengths historically has been that we do belong to a large manufacturing region that's not just Ontario alone, but spreads into Michigan. I did have flashbacks to election night, Tiff, as you had the blue wall up there, Ohio, Michigan. It was all in blue, and I was remembering my New York Times tracker as I spent a sleepless night on election night. But anyway, I digress. There's some strengths here as well that our competitive tax environment, reliable infrastructure, and skilled labor remain as strong as any, particularly in the Windsor through to Guelph corridor. Some of our weaknesses, costs remain a concern, primarily on the labor side, as well as on the energy and electricity side for the auto sector, as well as other manufacturers. And we're still working on developing a cohesive investment attraction strategy. This is something we've been critical of in the past as an institute. Subsidies is one word. Cohesive investment attraction would be another one. We need to find ways to double down on those industries that are going to grow in the future, but also make sure we hold on to the GDP and jobs that are created from industries that some would say are of the past. As of the last time I checked, over 600,000 people in the province of Ontario worked in the auto manufacturing sector, auto and auto parts. So when we lament the amount of money sometimes being moved into the auto sector, 600,000 people produce a lot of GDP and has a positive impact on our lives. Some of the threats, North American demand for cars is stagnating. We've seen this through auto share, some of the moves by younger generations not necessarily buying into car ownership or home ownership, whether you think they're buying into that by moral and value choice or access to capital, is a live question. But there's opportunities as well. And we believe that being a leader in electric vehicles and cold weather testing could be two of the things that we could be leaders on.